Here we go then. Good evening. Is everyone okay? Hey, Freddie. Is everyone okay? That's a new thing that is constructed around the number 7. Hey Ryan! Oh, shouldn't you be in charge of this? Right, everyone give me a minute, I've just got to take this stuff out. Okie dokie! And then what we're going to do is we're going to unplug. Hey. And in theory, you should still be able to hear me. Can you still hear what I'm saying? Can you hear these words? Very much so. Thank you, Mr. Addis. Very good school teacher there. Hello everyone. Dales is here. Hello everyone. You okay? This is nice, isn't it? Lovely stuff. Well, so, my name is Charlie, as you probably might know a bit. I had a fairly strict plan of how this was going to work, which was that I was going to start off by playing some music. Hello, Kerman, you alright? Now, I guess, I'm going to show you around my studio, which is the room that I am in now. Yeah. I am pretty British. It's not full on tea though, it's lemon and ginger tea. Or an infusion. So I released a new album today. It's called Last Night's Glitter. Hey Bo. And there's only really one new song on it, but it's got some reworkings of some stuff from my last couple of albums, which you can see up there on top of one of my baffles. That's nice, isn't it? So I recorded it all in this room that we're in now, which is my home studio in my new house. It's basically a garage that we had converted a year or so ago. And I decided to make an album of acoustic-y versions of some of my already released stuff, just to test it out and see how well it works. So you lot can be the judge of that as to whether you think it's worked very well or not. I'm happy with it, so the label are happy with it, so that's what matters, right? So anyway, we thought it would be a good idea to just show you around this room, which is the studio where I recorded the album, which I've said about 50 million times already. So we'll start off over here at the door where you would walk in. There's some lovely frosting here so that you can't see what's inside. So that's nice. And then you get into a pretty boring corner of the studio where we have two old keyboards. These are two M Audio Axiom 61s. This one is like 15 years old. This one's slightly fewer than 15 years old. And neither of them work anymore because they got punished a lot around and about the place. This is a Blu-ray player, and we plugged this into a TV that we made. My wife made it for the new video, which came out today as well, for Former Glories. You might have seen that. Here are some cases. Cases are extremely boring. We got some shelves here. I've just seen that my mate Chris is on this, and he and our other chums, who also like travel a bit for different jobs and stuff, we have a habit of doing this in all the hotel rooms we stay in. So this is like a little insight into what my normal life is like. So we've got this little DeLorean, which my former bass player John purchased for me as a kind of good luck gift, I think. And this is a framed Pipco Collective sign, which is the record label that my friend Josh, who used to play guitar for me back in the day, started. It's not a gin bottle, whiskey and a coffee liqueur, because I don't like gin. It's absolutely awful. So then in the next corner of the room, we have the area from which I will be doing some live streamed concerts beginning on Monday. So this is the area that was built for the Former Glories vertical video. You have the lovely Sony television that my wife made, standing on a lovely vintage cabinet that she found, and all of the paintings that we did for the Last Night's Glitter lyric video. You can tell I don't like talking, right? And this one in particular, this is the one that's actually the front cover of the album. So that's a cool one to have. Nice bit of wallpaper. In this vintage cabinet you will find a couple of relics. So this is my Electrics repeater, which is a loop station. I used to have two of them. They were really expensive, and I took them all over the continent playing concerts in half-empty cafes. And then this is a Digitech MV5 MIDI vocalist vocal harmonizer vocoder thing that doesn't really work anymore, to be honest. It's again been beaten to an inch of its life over the years, but you can hear it on the song Easy Kid, and I'm gonna say one-word answers on the Oceanography album. So that's that. There's a couple of cheeky things that I'm not going to tell you about in there. So then what else is it over here? So we've got this microphone over here. This is a Neumann TLM 103, and that's the microphone that I used for about half of the Oceanography album, and all of the Society Pages album, which is coming out soon. And it's very nice. I would recommend getting one if you're after a small large diaphragm condenser, if that makes sense. And then we're in this world, which is where I stand to do live streamed concerts on Monday, from Monday. So you've got my shoes that I have to wear for using all of this gubbins, because the buttons are all quite close together because the board is quite small. But this is my solo acoustic pedal board that I use for solo acoustic concerts. It has the all-important tuner, an EQ pedal so that I can just slightly tweak the sound of the guitar on the way in, a compressor should I need it, a foot switch to use this thing, the best reverb pedal in the universe, the Empress Reverb. I couldn't recommend it more. And then this, the TC Helicon Play Acoustic, which does me some vocal effects and a bit of looping, because, you have to do that stuff these days, even though I've been doing it for 15 bloody years. Okay, so so you'll also be noticing that there are these cool things, which are some baffles that I made with my producer Steve DeRose and his stepdad in his garage, and they are made of rock wool and this nice material that's around it that's special. Steve did all the research into how to make it work. I just stapled some fabric, basically. Okay, and then we've got some cases over here. Ordinarily, it's slightly less cluttered because I don't have to leave a performance space. So these things are all kind of piled up here at the minute. We've got box number 1 of guitar pedals. And in here, you've got some nice guitar pedals. You've got the Marshall Shredmaster for when you want to sound like Radiohead. You've got the Line 6 DL4 for when you want to sound like, I guess, Radiohead. Electro-Harmonix, the Glove. I like this one. Nice, cheap overdrive. Great delay pedal. Another great multi-effects pedal. The all-important Sans amp. You know, plenty of stuff in there to keep you going. And to make some good sounds with, because instead of learning how to play guitar as a kid, I learnt how to make stupid noises with my guitar as a kid. And then you got the bigger box of pegals. Come on, it's quite hard to do one-handed. Here we go. And in here we've got some octavey pitch shifty things. We've got a pretend tube screamer. We've got 2 of these full tone OCDs because they're a very nice big drive pedal. We've got the ZVEX Fuzz Factory because I'm a Muse super fan. We've got 2 Boss DM2s. One is one of the pretend new ones that they've put out, and one is the real deal from like 1981. And this thing basically just goes, which is why I bought it. That's a slap echo pedal that I really like, and that'll probably do for that stuff, because that's not that interesting. Here you have what you have in lots of studios, which is the all-important tick list for when you're making an album, and you are like, okay, there's the song All I Have. I've recorded the acoustic guitar for that now, so I can tick it off. So now we get to do a fun thing, because it's out and it's finished, so we can scrub it all off. Whoa! Yeah! Whoa! Yeah! It's not coming off very well, but I'm going to persist, because persistence is how you make it in life. Never mind. Okay. That's a poster of a band that you might have heard of. I play in them for a living, and they're lovely people, and I hope they're all doing really well. This down here is my Kemper. A Kemper is a guitar thing that's very useful for being able to make guitar noises without being really loud, but it's still sounding like the real thing, or close enough to the real thing. I call it Ellie, because, you know, Kemper. And then down here we've got another keyboard, because you've got to have loads of keyboards. Up here you've got my 2 first albums and the word all from a Marshall amp. That's fun. I'm getting bored of this already. I hope. What are you thinking? Are you guys bored of this? Or there's some more foot switch stuff underneath here. We've got this microphone that I've been using quite a lot recently. So this is the Aston Stealth. I bought this on our big US tour last year. I tried to get hold of it while I was in America, but it had sold out everywhere because it had only just come out and it's really, really popular. But I managed to get hold of it in Toronto, in Canada. So, yeah, I got this, and this is the microphone that I used for all of the vocals on the new album. And I think it sounds really, really nice. It's quite affordable for like a pro microphone. It's like about £400, I think, or three or £400 to get one, and they sound really nice, and it's just a pleasant thing to sing into. Over here, you've got a new piece of equipment, which is how I managed to make my guitar sound reasonably nice at the start of this broadcast. So this is what I'm going to be using for the live stream concerts starting from Monday. It's almost like the whole point of this broadcast is to get you to watch the live streams on Monday. I don't know. But anyway, that means that I can have slightly better sounding audio going into the phone, which is useful. And then the usual kind of contemporary recording studio or contemporary budget recording studio. It's fundamentally a computer with an audio interface. This is the one that I bought a while ago. I was advised by various audio professionals who I have at my sort of disposal on a near daily basis what would be a good brand to look at, and they said, hey, you should check out Apogee, their stuff's good. So I bought an Apogee Quartet, and that's what I've been using for a few years now, and I like it a lot. That's a picture of Lichfield Cathedral. That was a gift at a concert that I played in a church in Lichfield called St Mary's last year. So that was nice. Someone asked earlier if there's going to be anything Twin Peaks themed in here. There you go. There is a Two Evils Coffee Company sticker. My desktop backgrounds feature a rolling cast of superstar roadies. So we've got Ben, Foz and Ollie here, just hanging out on my screen, keeping me company. Bunch of hard drives, some tea. And then, the monitors I use, I got these quite recently actually. These are the Adam A7Xs, which are very, very popular amongst the sort of semi-pro audio production world. They're really good. They've got a ribbon tweeter, if you know what that means. I like them a lot. My old monitors are down here. They are Alesis M1s that basically everyone buys when they start university, if you start university around 2006 or 2007. And now they are just propping up my computer. Okay, next up. This is a purchase I'm really excited about. I have always wanted one of these. It's a big, heavy microphone stand. I just think it's really cool. So I bought one. And what it means is that I can sit here at the piano and have a microphone dangling in front of me without having anything around my shoulders or whatever, so that then you can be all like, like that, and I would sing the other bit of the song and whatever. So this is my piano. It's a Yamaha U3 upright, which I bought in my final year of university, and that meant that the guys that I lived with in my final year of university had to put up with the fact that we had a piano in the living room and had to try and fit a TV around it. But they both used it for some of their compositions and recordings and stuff, so that's nice. But yeah, it's really important to me. I bought it with some money that had significance, shall we say? So it's been with me for like 10, nearly 11 years now, and I like it a lot, and I use it for recording piano on all of my albums and stuff. This was the first decent vocal mic that I bought. It's an SE Electronics Z5600A Mark II, which is a microphone that's got a valve in it, and that means that it just sounds a bit distorted, essentially. And yeah, I used this for all of the vocals on the first album, More Stately Mansions. That first album, not the other first album. And then over my piano here, you can see I've got some mic stands that are all bendy, that are constantly attached to the wall. This is basically, so that the point of this room was for me to be able to be creative and get work done without having to set things up much, because that really gets in the way of being creative. So I decided I would attach these and have them constantly plugged in, so the cables are down at the other end on the desk, so I can just go whenever I want to use them. And they're set up, and what I tend to do is I lift the top up like this, and I point the mics at just sort of down into the body a bit to get the nice sound and that. And yeah, so they are Octava MK012s. They're a matched stereo pair, and they have interchangeable capsules. I leave them on cardioid all the time, pretty much. I've used them for lots and lots of different recordings. They're made in Russia, and they're a really great budget-ish small diaphragm condenser that's very versatile. Above my piano, there's some bits of inspiration. So we've got a poster from a Sonlux concert at the Wardrobe in 2014 that I went to, and that was fucking life-changing. It was absolutely amazing. Sonlux, if you've never listened to Sonlux, you should just leave here now. Don't leave here now. After this, you should go and listen to some Sonlux, because it's really great. So, yeah, that was a really great gig in Leeds. That's a small print of a Luigi Russolo painting, because I'm hideously pretentious. That's Freddie Mercury. That's from the last ever Oceanside gig, and my mate Paul Hallows designed the poster, who's a very talented man. There's Jeff Buckley up there, and there's a nice thing that my wife did. You've got Rick Sanchez. You've got a glow-in-the-dark skull shaker over there, which I purchased on the way to my audition for a band called Bastille. You've got stuffed Luna that my in-laws got for me. And you've got Edgar Allan Poe, because everyone loves a bit of Edgar Allan Poe. Down here, Vox AC15. I bought this just before making More Stately Mansions, because I didn't have a proper guitar amp. And I bought it because my friend Ben from the Society Pages has basically the same thing, and I thought, hey, that sounds good. Let's go for a bit of that. Yeah, loads of people have these, because it's quite a good... It's a good amp to have, you know. This is where I keep all of my various laminates and passes and stuff. That's a BBC one. You're supposed to give those back when you leave, but I was really excited because that was the first time I'd been into the building to do some music. So I snuck out with it because I'm a naughty boy. And then there's more passes here. You've got Chopin from the Chopin Museum. And this is a poster from one of my favourite gigs I've ever done, which was supporting Van Art at the Soup Kitchen in Manchester. That was really cool. Again, by Paul Hallows. This is a poster that Paul Hallows did for me, of me. Incredibly vain to have a picture of yourself on the wall, I know, but I rather prefer to think that I'm showcasing the great artwork of my friend Paul Hallows rather than my stupid face. This is Ian Latimer. He's my duck. This is my lap steel. So if you've listened to the album, you'll have heard a lot of kind of country-ish sounding slidey-widey guitars, and it's not slidey-widey guitars, it is this, a lap steel, which is a very nice instrument. Basically, you can get lots of them around the £100 mark. Then there's this Gretsch one, which is around the sort of £300 to £400 mark, and then everything beyond that is like over £1,000. So I thought I'd go in the middle. Seemed sensible. That's a reflection filter thingy. They're not supposed to be very useful, really, apparently. I don't know. I have one, and it sometimes makes me feel a bit more comfortable when I'm singing. Here are some more Bastille posters signed by the band as a nice end-of-tour gift. So I framed them, because I'm very proud of the work that I get to do with those guys. And then we've got my guitar rack. I was having a Zoom coffee with some of my roadie chums the other week, and Fozzie, our guitar tech, was quite disparaging about the quality of my actual guitar rack compared to the guitars, and he thinks that I should buy something slightly more substantial. So maybe I will one day. But anyway, we've got my Gibson Sg. You know what, I'm just going to turn this around for a minute. Can you? Yeah. So you got my Gibson Sg, which is in blue, and that's the one that I snapped the headstock off once. So that's why it's got a bit of a weird colour thing going on. It wasn't out of anger. I slipped over on stage, having used it for about 5 minutes. And then you've got my Fender Jazzmaster, which that's kind of my main guitar, really. That's what I use on most of the stuff when I'm playing live with Bastille, and I use it for the lower tune stuff of my own performances. This is a weird Telecaster copy that I got to celebrate signing my record deal. I bought it from a man in Sheffield. It's originally a Yamaha Pacifica, but it's got some quite nice pickups in it. This one in particular is a Seymour Duncan vintage rhythm, and it sounds really nice. And then I bought this very, very attractive vintage Epiphone thing from the 70s, which I used for the guitar solo on the Alma remix that I did. Not really used it for anything besides that though, because it's not great. This is another Yamaha Pacifica. I was really into those for a bit. I upgraded the pickups on it. Again, it's Seymour Duncan stuff in it. It's not had strings on it for about 4 or 5 years now though, so you know. This is my Mustang Bass. I've only really got one bass, and it's this one, and I like it. It's a short scale guitar, and I'm only a small man, so it works for me. My friend Ed the dog, who you might know, called it Chandler, and we decided that from that point on we were going to name all of our guitars after Monica's boyfriends, or love interests. So I do have another guitar called Pete somewhere. And then this is my latest guitar that I bought, which is my Martin Meriton, and I fucking love it. This is the nicest thing I own, other than the piano. It is absolutely stunning, and I couldn't recommend it more. On here we go. This is another Luna. My wife made this out of felt. How good is that? Look at that. It's Luna. Ah! Cool. All right. Yeah. This. That. Well. That's basically the studio tour. I think I've covered pretty much everything. Over here, there's some shelves where I keep leftover merchandise. There are about 600 or 700 copies of an album called Geek in here. I'll put that on sale again one day in the future. There's also about the same number of a EP called Noah Fenk with 2 Ks. They're not great. Actually, to be fair, Geek features really great drumming and really great bass playing, and the piano was recorded at Leeds College of Music and was played reasonably, and there's some really nice strings on it. Just unfortunately, it's got my very squawky 21-year-old voice all over it. Right. Just putting in my password to the studio computer so that I can look at all the questions you sent in. Thanks for sending lots of questions. God, this has taken... Oh, I've really dragged on here, haven't I? No, there are no geek teas left. Sorry, Pete. Okay, so I had lots of questions. You can't really see them. And I said I was going to answer as many as I could. So I'm just going to rattle through and do them as quick as possible. Sorry, this is taking a really long time. Ace asked, what monitors do you use? I've already answered that. It's the Adam A7Xs. Introvertism with a W asked, since what age are you doing music? I tried to start guitar when I was 7, gave up, and then I started again when I was 13. Jolie asks, who are your biggest musical influences? Ocean Size Amplifier, Radiohead, Biffy Clyro, Your Codename is Milo, Jeff Buckley, Queen, that'll do for now, won't it? Gillian, what's your favourite track on the album? Last Night's Glitter. What's it like to record on tour versus at home? Recording on tour is kind of good fun. It's a way of taking up The Cure. Yes, indeed, The Cure are a big influence. Recording on tour is a nice way to take up some of the day. And also it was quite fun going and checking out lots of little studios around the place when I was in the States. But obviously you are really there to do the touring job, and you can't always fully dedicate yourself to what it is that you are trying to do. Now, technically, I actually did record 2 of the vocals from the Last Night's Glitter album while I was on tour. So in a dressing room in Chicago, I recorded the vocals to the new version of The Weather, because everyone had gone out And I thought, okay, well, while everyone's out, I'll use the small dressing room and record these vocals to test out this new microphone that I just bought. Unbeknownst to me, Mr. Will Farquharson had actually come back from wherever everyone had gone a bit early, and so I then felt really bad because he'd had to listen to me squawking in the next room for about half an hour. But he said it sounded nice, so that's nice of him. So recording at home is really nice because you just get to kind of focus on the task at hand. Gillian also asked, did I sing backing vocals on Comfort of Strangers? No. Joe asks, what's the inspiration for last night's Glitter? I assume you mean the song. Basically, I had just done an album all about my concerns and battle with the idea of success and all of that kind of stuff. And I'd got to a really nice place, actually, once I'd, got past all of the release and stuff and stressing myself out about doing live shows, and actually had some really, really enjoyable moments. And I just wrote the song because I was sort of thinking about the future and growing up and what I was, it's just one of those boring, hey, I might be turning 30 soon kind of songs. Joe also asks, what is the ghost story behind Maria? Once I saw a ghost, I think, but I don't believe in ghosts, so make of that what you will. Katie, if you could collaborate with anyone alive or dead, who would you choose? I have more than cashed in my chips on that one, because I've got to make not one but 2 albums with the guitarist from my absolute all-time favourite band, so I don't need to collaborate with anybody else alive or dead, because I have, smashed it as far as I'm concerned. Little teenage me would be fucking beside himself if he knew that he'd worked with Steve DeRose on not one but 2 albums. Bella asks, what song are you most proud of? Last Night's Glitter. Ghost Story behind Maria, I've covered it. How did you get Luna? We bought her. Elle May asks, how did you come up with the album artwork? Well, my wife and I sat in our conservatory with a sketchbook and some paint, and painted. She did the really cool background stuff. I painted the text, and then she put it all together in Photoshop. JA9Zim says, which track feels the most different stripped back compared to its original version? I would be pretty confident in saying that is Macbeth, because that song is really heavy on the original, and now it's all light and jazzy. And I'm really pleased with how the light and jazzy version came out. Peyton asks, what's your songwriting process like? It's slow and laborious. Ordinarily, I come up with the chords, the melody, the structure really quickly, and then it'll take me about 3 years to come up with any lyrics that don't make my toes curl with horror. So that's usually the hold-up. Sometimes that's not the case, so Last Night's Glitter was just really quick and just happened. There are some songs that happen just like that, it just comes out, and that's kind of when you feel like you might have hit something that you might really, believe or whatever. How do you feel like your music has evolved / changed over time? What are your feelings regarding your older material versus the newer stuff? I think I've started to get to a point now, by ignoring some of the stuff that I did when I was much younger, that I'm reasonably pleased with the older stuff, but you always want to be looking forwards, not back. It's nice now and then to have a little listen and think like, hey, that was a good piece of music, or that was a quite good piece of music, I could do something similar but much better in the future, I guess. So I think the way that things evolve, I guess I'm just getting slightly more focused. Will I post this to my IG stories? Yes. Could you do a guitar tutorial for Sing to God? One day. Winter of Smith asks, to which song are you most emotionally attached? Last Night's Glitter. Rain asks, what was the hardest song on the album to write and why? I don't know really, because I didn't have to write any of them new for this one, because they were already out, except for Last Night's Glitter, but that was really easy to write, and it just kind of came out, and I was really pleased with it. So I don't really know, to be honest. You know what, the lyrics for The Weather took me fucking forever, so that took quite a long time, and because I liked, and my wife liked, the piano part and the sounds of it and the melodies of it so much, I felt like I didn't want to screw it up. Shortest time I've ever taken to write a song is I started singing something in the shower, and then I went and sat at the guitar and wrote it all down, and it was done. And that was a Society Pages song called Young at Heart. So that was pretty quick. Bastille at 4 a.m. asked what inspired this album. A tour that I did with my mates Ben and Ed around Germany and Austria, where we played some stripped back versions of my previous output. Rainbright8 asks, I guess, could you tell us about an obscure instrument/harmony line in one of the songs you hope we notice? One of the nice things with this album was I got to put some of the original tracks from the original albums on More Stately Mansions and Oceanography, like some of the original layers, and put them into something that was much less dense so you can hear them a bit more clearly. So the mellotron part at the end of Ruins is one of my favourite things about that song, and I'm really glad that you get to hear it clearly, or much more clearly now. Mariana asks, which song is most difficult to play because of the arrangements, vocals or lyric? Well, the whole finger picking thing is reasonably new to me. I've just been practicing this afternoon, and I was practicing a song that I'm going to play on Monday. Spoiler alert, as the people say, I'm going to play the song Former Glories, because I've never ever played it live in any way. I've never played the piano or the piano part or the guitar part and sung it at the same time, so that'll be a nice thing to try. And I was trying to do that this afternoon, and it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So there we go. Mariana also asks, what's my favourite Edgar Allan Poe story? I would say The Purloined Letter. What inspires you to do music? I can't not. If you had to choose a single song to play for the rest of your life, what would it be? It would be Women Who Love Men Who Love Drugs by Ocean Size. How old is Luna? She's 6.5. Okay, Bobby. We're on to page 2 of the questions now. We're nearly done. Bobby asks, what is the story behind The Departure? Give me a moment. The Departure and the song Maria actually started life as the same song. And then my former bass player, Sean, who wrote a lot of the bass lines for the Oceanography album, he suggested that he thought the end section of the original version of Maria made for a better chorus than the chorus. And the chorus of Maria used to be the chorus of The Departure. So I took the chorus out, put the then end part of Maria to be the chorus, and then I thought, well, it's still a good chorus though, isn't it, the original one? So I thought I'd try and stick it somewhere else, and so I started writing another song, and I already had some of the lyrics, sort of, but I just slightly tweaked them, and I was at the time watching the TV show The Leftovers, which I think is one of the best TV shows ever made, and I really highly recommend that you watch it if you like slightly weird stuff. So the song The Departure is basically just about the leftovers. So yeah, watch it and you'll see what a bunch of the words mean then. Stephanie, what's your favourite line you've ever written? I'm really pleased with the lyrics of the new song Last Night's Glitter. I think I've started writing in a slightly different way with that song, and I've tried to maybe strip away some of the layers of metaphor that I usually use and just be a bit more real, but still quite tidy lyrically. So there's a bunch of lines in that one that I really like. I guess, yeah, I couldn't really pick one, I don't think, from that song, sorry, but I think that's the one that lyrically I feel is like one of my strongest anyway. But I also like the line in The Weather about half-empty coffee cups or whatever it is. It's storms in coffee cups and then half-empty cups in the second verse, and I thought I was being quite clever when I did that. Beverly asks, if you had unlimited money to put on one big wild arena show, what wild shit would you do / have? I think, to be quite boring, the main thing I would have would be musicians. So I would blow all the budget on the biggest ensemble I could possibly put together so that I could do, the most accurate version of what a bunch of my recordings have sounded like, using loads and loads and loads of musicians, because also that would be really fun, because people are the best, aren't they? Luke asks, how do you like your coffee? Black as midnight on a moonless night. Rocio or Rocchio, I'm sorry, Rocio, I don't know how to say your name, sorry. What country that you've never visited before with your music would you like to tour in? I've never played my own show in the States. I would quite like to do that. That would be fun. Lena, were there specific artists / songs / albums that influenced the new album? Yes, I was listening to a lot of Father John Misty, which I think is pretty blindingly obvious. So yeah, check out Father John Misty, particularly his most recent one, God's Favourite Customer, because I really like that one a lot. But actually the song Leaving LA from the Pure Comedy album, that was a big old influence on the vibe of this album, and was one of the references that I sent to my friend Kira, who did the strings on Last Night's Glitter, and I said, if you could do something a little bit like this, that would be magic. And she did something magic. Also, Josh T. Pearson, I was listening to a lot of Josh T. Pearson, particularly around the time that I wrote Last Night's Glitter. So I was definitely in the mood for writing something long and wordy and emotional. There's a song that he's never actually released, but you can find it on live videos on YouTube, called Stillborn to Rock, and it's the saddest song any human being has ever written, and I highly recommend you check it out. Elle, do you have any tips, songwriting or otherwise, for future musicians? Just don't follow any advice that I might ever have put out there, because I just get everything wrong. Yaira, I don't know how to say your name either, asks, what song do you wish you'd written? Women Who Love Men Who Love Drugs by Ocean Size. And what are the pros and cons of a home studio? Well, it's very nice having a home studio, because it means that you can get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, walk across from the conservatory to the garage and just get on with work. You don't, and particularly the way that I've got it set up, I don't have to faff about for hours and hours and hours, setting things up. I can just crack on with it, which is really nice. So that's good. I guess one of the drawbacks is that you don't have, in the same way as you do when you hire a studio for a week or something, you don't have that kind of deadline there, and you don't have the kind of the enforcement of time. So that's one of the benefits of going to one of those like studios, the likes of which I recorded More Stately Mansions and Oceanography in, for the most part. And it's nice to go somewhere that's like away from home, and like just go somewhere that's totally different, and just to totally immerse yourself in the thing. But that's also really expensive. So I'm really glad I've got this place, and I think overall it's kind of very, very useful having a home studio. Laura asks, which song took the longest to record? Are you a perfectionist, and were some songs harder to finish than others? Yes, I'm a crippling perfectionist, and I never get there, so that's good, isn't it? But you never can get to perfection, can you? But that's why we chase it. So the song for this album that took the longest to record, I would say, was probably Last Night's Glitter, kind of, because I did it twice. I did one one version of it, and I was living with that for a while, and then kind of once I'd got a bunch of the rest of them finished, I decided that I wasn't happy with the original version. I'd been sat on it for long enough that I wanted to redo it again. So redo it again, that's some good grammar, guys. So I did it again. So that took quite a while. The rest of it, I kind of just spent a lot of time practicing before I started recording. That was the vibe with making this album, and I think that's a good thing to do, is to practice lots before you hit record, rather than just recording and fixing later. Mia, is Luna featured on the recording again? You can hear shuffling around in the background a little bit. Liv, how do you choose your singles? Usually it's down to whichever song is around 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, because often my songs are not 3 minutes and 30 seconds long. But usually it's just that the label will listen to the demos or the nearly finished versions of songs that I've got and be like, oh, we think that's like a potential single. So yeah, usually they kind of, it's a bit of a mutual decision. This time round, the single idea was just like, well, there isn't a single, so let's just put the new song out because it's the one we're the most excited about. So that's why we put that one out a couple of weeks ahead of the album. Louis asks, which were the hardest and easiest songs to arrange and record? They were all kind of much of a muchness this time with this album. The arranging and recording was sort of just the same level of effort with all of them. It didn't really feel like an effort. I already knew the songs really well. It was just a nice exercise, essentially. How did you find the experience of mixing and recording this album yourself? The mixing bit was fucking terrifying. I've never done that before. I learnt a lot. Thankfully I didn't have any drums to contend with, so that made life a bit easier. But, you know, working on your own is nice in some respects, but you can't really beat working with other people either, because you just get that vibe and interaction and, you know, sort of shared ownership of something. So there's value in both, and I will continue to do both forever. Classic home studio question, what's your favourite piece of gear in your home studio? This. Emily, have any books or films inspired your songwriting? Yes, The Leftovers inspired the song The Departure. Teresa, do you have a favourite song on the album? Yes, the song Last Night's Glitter is my favourite song on the album, Last Night's Glitter. Sana asks, what's your favourite chord and will you play it for us? My favourite chord was always, back in the day, C sharp minor. But that's quite boring. So my favourite chord today is going to be this one, which is the first chord from a song called Orador from the album Geek. Which is a weird A. Okay. We're nearly done, I promise. Sorry this has taken fucking forever. Angela, what's the first song you ever wrote? How old were you? The first song I ever wrote was called Hate Me As Much As You Want. So you can tell that I was 13 when I wrote that. And I was listening to a lot of shit music. And it was shit. But that doesn't matter, because, you know, you got to start somewhere, haven't you? It did have some credit. Some credit to it, I suppose. Yeah. And then I started writing lots of other songs. One of the earliest songs that I wrote was a song called Monosyllabic, which became the song One Word Answers. I wrote that when I was 14. Tanya asks, what is your vocal range? I don't know. Okay, so I've got the final 4 questions, guys. And the final 4 questions come from Mr. John Taylor, who played bass on my albums Geek and More Stately Mansions, and he also helped with, well, I say helped with, he wrote the string arrangements on Geek and More Stately Mansions. He's a very talented, lovely, wonderful man, who is now a fucking paramedic, doing something useful with his life. Yeah, every time we've been doing the Thursday clapping thing, I've been thinking of my boy John. Love you, mate. So John asks, what is your favourite kind of cheese? I'm going to say him from Blur's cheese, the Blue Monday. It's very nice and very stinky. I once asked another friend of mine on a tour what their favourite kind of cheese was, and I'd never heard of the kind of cheese that they said. Cool. The next question from John is, Kiss, Marry, Kill, Jeff Buckley, Jeff Goldblum, or Jeff Lynne? So... Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? Tory cheese, what does that mean? I guess Jeff Lynne seems really wholesome and nice and wonderful, so I'd probably marry Jeff Lynne. I'd kiss Jeff Buckley because I think he's beautiful, but I think he and I would have ended up killing each other if we tried to get married. And I would therefore kill Jeff Goldblum, which is a controversial answer probably, but I feel like Jeff Goldblum throughout his acting career has displayed that he has so many special powers that he'd be able to just reincarnate as something more exciting. Or in my attempt at killing him, he would just pull some sweet move and kill me instead. If I could acquire any other musician's guitar, which would it be and why? I would want Will Farquharson's Gibson ES330, that lovely red one with the Bigsby on it, because it is one of the most beautiful guitars I've ever had the pleasure of playing. And yeah, I would like to have it. But it'd be okay because we're playing a band together, so he could still play it sometimes if he wanted to. And finally, this is the last question, guys, and it's a good one. So John asks, which sitcom character do I most identify with? And the sitcom character that I most identify with is definitely Dr. Allan Statham from Green Wing. If you've never seen Green Wing, it's a Channel 4 hospital sitcom from the turn of the century. And it's my favourite sitcom ever. I think it's a work of genuine genius. My sister and I quote it at each other regularly. And yeah, I think Dr. Allan Statham is just he's just who I am, really. I think deep down. Yes, John. Particularly when I'm wearing my long coat. Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of it, I suppose. I've shown you around my studio. I'm going to spin around on the chair just so that you can remember what it all looked like. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry, I'm not going to go and get Luna. I'll get her on Monday. So you can see Luna on Monday, just before I play a live concert. So yeah, Monday night, same time, 8 p.m, I will be doing a live concert from here. Whoa, I'm dizzy. This corner of the room here, I will be, for week 1, playing my acoustic guitar, and I'll be playing a few songs, one of which is a cover of something that I really like from the last couple of years. So I hope to see you all there. It will also be in support of Save Our Venues for Oporto in Leeds, which is a place that I've played millions and millions and millions of times. Yeah, it's nice for you all to hang out. I'm glad that this went well, ish. Yeah, thank you very much, and I will now say goodbye, and I will see you again in the future. Yes! Yes!